Thank you very much, Marcin. I was here last year, and this is a great event for us, and we welcome this. We look forward to this every year because we consider ourselves to be more. Pardon me? Closer to the microphone. Okay, sorry. Can you hear me, everyone? Okay, if I'm speaking too fast, if you just want to raise your hand and I'll slow down. I have a tendency sometimes to get excited about things. I've been working at ISI, formerly ISI now, for 39 years. So it has been a great part of my life. And I was on the team that developed the Web of Science. I co-developed not only the Web of Science, but our indexing system that we use, and it has gone through several iterations. And I also participated in the development of the Derwent Innovations Index, the patent literature on our platform, as well as Biosis, and moving in many different projects over 39 years, of course. And in the last 18 years of my career here have been devoted to visiting customers and talking to customers about their needs and requirements and making sure that we understand what we should do. And so that's why I said we're a partner of the research ecosystem. So today, it's a nice title, Back to the Future, because it really is back to the future. I'm going to talk about a great deal of things. I'll be brief in some cases, but then explain in detail some other things. I'm going to talk about the Web of Science, of course, and introduce you to the Web of Science group. And I'm joined by four colleagues here. Marcin Nandita Quaderni, who is the editor-in-chief of Web of Science, and then Radek is the country manager for Web of Science for Poland and also a number of other countries. And then my colleague, Guillaume Rival, this afternoon is going to talk about insights and give you some insight into insights for publishers. So we're happy to be here. So I'm going to talk a little bit about ISI and the reestablishment of ISI. And, we have a group of people who are academicians, and they are experts in bibliometrics, and they are focused on academic research and research and development, not only looking at our data and looking at how data changes and development of papers. We're going to show one of those as well, but also how we should change our products. Maybe they can help us inform us about the importance of new metrics. So they're looking at that as well. I will talk about new developments, open access visibility, as well as peer review, and also a service that we have called Copernio, which is something on the platform that enables researchers to get to full text with one click, no matter where they are, so your library travels with you. And then also peer review Publons, getting credit for peer review and how Publons is contributing to improved author and peer review transparency. And then how that is going to be incorporated in the platform as well in the coming months. Because Web of Science, as we know, is evolving. It is changing. It has become not only a research and discovery tool, but it is now a research intelligence tool because of the data and how we index that data. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about analytics, but I'm just going to mention it briefly because Guillaume is going to talk about that. So we're relatively a new company, and Web of Science Group now is a company within Clarivate Analytics devoted to the academic research ecosystem, publishers, societies, institutions, government agencies, etc. And we have a new leader, Annette Thomas. She is our Chief Executive Officer, and she comes to us with a wealth of experience. So we are very, very excited to have her at the helm of our organization because she has walked in the shoes of researchers. She was at the helm of Nature Publishing. So she knows publishing very well. So she understands research. And that's very, very important for us as an organization. And we, as I said, we have the Institute for Scientific Information now reestablished. But we have a team of people. Our leadership team is really, they all have a wealth of experience in different facets of research, publishing, academic research, managing peer review, et cetera. And they understand the needs of researchers and institutions very clearly. And we're very excited to have this team. They're making things happen tremendously quickly, and we are on a path to evolving our company to serve all facets of the research ecosystem. So this graphic that I'm showing you on the left side of the screen, it's complex. So it takes a while for anyone to look at that and say, oh, what does this mean? But really, at the center of that graphic, you have the Web of Science content, the Web of Science, because it's informing all of those things around it. It's integrated in unique ways to serve the research ecosystem for peer review, for publishing, for discovery, for research assessment, et cetera. So that content is very, very important to us, and we have a wealth of resources that are connected to the Web of Science as well. We have EndNote. Copernio is now embedded in the Web of Science. It's also something that is freely available. I'm going to talk about that. We also have, we've talked about the journal citation reports, and Nandita is going to talk a little bit about that. But the journal citation reports obviously is something that has been written a lot about. It's written a lot about it. Has been written, and it is a journal evaluation tool. I think that's very clear for collection development. And we also have a publishing system called ScholarOne. And as editors, you're managing, peer review as well as selection and submission of manuscripts, communication with authors, changes, reviewers, et cetera. And ScholarOne manuscripts is a tool that can help you because it serves the entire publishing ecosystem, the publishing process, from start or submission of papers through the actual, all the editorial changes and stages of production to the paper being published. And it increases your profile among authors because it is connected. You can have it connected to the Web of Science for searching for reviewers, checking references, et cetera. All of this can be automated. It decreases your time to market for critical scientific data, and it lowers your infrastructure cost, and it streamlines the production and processing of papers and the publishing process altogether. And it is a hosted service, so we're building a journal, a site for your journal, and it is an off-the-shelf modular infrastructure, but then we customize that based on your workflow. So very clearly it is sort of the best of both worlds because it serves your workflow with tools that we know that are important to the publishing process. And it's very complex. You see this picture in front of you, and on the left you see the submission and how you decide on papers and how you communicate with authors. There's an author-based module, there's an editor-based module, and ScholarOne Manuscripts handles the entire process from start to finish, even things such as collecting fees and all of that as well. It's used by over 365 societies and publishers. 90% of the largest publishers in the world are using ScholarOne Manuscripts as their researching tool, and it has the backing of the Web of Science support for its development, and it has a team of people. It's based in Charlottesville, Virginia, but we also have an office, sort of an adjunct office in Europe as well. But the team has spent years working in publishing as well. So they very clearly are market-driven development. So they are working with customers, both large and small, to develop ScholarOne so that it serves the research community in publishing. And so that is a tool that it serves the editors and journals very clearly. and it's integrated with Web of Science content. So let's get back to the foundation, which is the Web of Science. And in the center of that circle, you see the Web of Science core collection, which includes the Science Citation Index Expanded, Social Sciences Citation Index, Arts and Humanities Citation Index, Emerging Sources Citation Index, which we've heard referenced before. I'm going to speak a little bit about that as well. And then we'll talk about the selection later today for the core collection, both the Emerging Sources Citation Index and then the other editions of the Web of Science. But around the Web of Science core collection, you have a number of specialty products that are focused on disciplines like biosis for the applied life sciences and biomedical research. And you have a version of Medline also. And you have also partner products that we've added to the platform, such as the Korean Journal Database, the Chinese Science Citation Database, the Russian Science Citation Database, and the fourth one is Cielo. We have a new one coming out in the near future. It will be added to the platform as well. And all of this takes advantage of the platform tools and features. So the idea here is to integrate that content. So all told, the Web of Science, though, the core collection, covers 254 different disciplines. Now, from the beginning, the idea was that the Web of Science, or the Science Citation Index, Social Sciences Citation Index, and Arts and Humanities Citation Index would cover every discipline, the most important literature covered in that discipline. Those databases were built working with academic libraries. The collection criteria that were developed in cooperation with the largest libraries in the U.S. and Europe. But we're unique in that we cover things. Every substantive item is covered and indexed, meaning it is completely indexed and available on the platform. In the core collection, we have over 21,000 titles at this point. And that number is evolving because there is no number of titles we will cover because, as we all know, new titles are coming out all the time and we continue to evaluate them as quickly as possible. We have over 155 million records on the platform. In the Web of Science alone, there's around 75 million records, and it's growing by 2 million records every year. And very uniquely, we do citation indexing because every cited reference is processed. And that allows you to traverse the discipline that you're looking at, the paper, to see how someone is taking it forward and using it in new ways, and also to trace the origins of that discipline or that research area all the way back to its beginning. And you'll see how science has changed and how new things are connected through the scientific literature using cited references. And you would miss things by just doing subject indexing because the cited references do not change, but the subject terminology to describe a discipline does change. So the core collection, as I said, 21,000 journals, and you have a number of editions there. Both the Conference Proceedings Citation Index and Book Citation Index are included, but it's over 73 million records, 100% with cited references and full author data, full author abstracts at this point, and also funding information from 2008. Multidisciplinary, we're building the tool really from the inside out. And what I mean by that is that we're doing the work of a major university, a library, in that we're bringing the most important and relevant high-quality literature to the platform, indexing it completely, and then making it available in ways that are unique so that you can find things very easily and you get quality results by default. And that's very, very important for research. I'm not going to talk about selection because Nandita is going to talk about that in detail, but I will say this, in that decisions about coverage are very critical to us. The content that we include in the platform is probably the most important thing we do. From the start, the selection criteria, and they have changed over time because publishing changes, and we have to change with publishing. But high quality, unbiased, neutral selection is the hallmark of the Web of Science. So Web of Science has been around now for 22 years, almost 23 years now. So it is a database that is growing exponentially. Every year more is added to it. And our decisions our editorial decisions are made very carefully after thorough review. And it is very critical to us. So Nandita will talk about that in detail. The indexing, though, as you see on this screen, it's very busy, but it just gives you an example of the in-depth indexing. Now, this looks when you look at each one of these boxes, it looks like it's easy. This is standard bibliographic data. But it's indexed according to the policy to make it searchable across decades of research that we've indexed. So it is indexed according to our policy. And the people doing this work, 1,600 people strong, are trained for a period of about 6 months before they go on production, because we want things to be consistent. We want everything to be covered that should be covered, and it should be as correct as possible. So we've developed processes to make it as good as we can. And then also citation navigation. On the platform you have, this is one article that you're looking at, but you can integrate this. This article is integrated into a network of 1.6 billion cited references. So it can be cited. There can be works that are related to it based on citations shared with this paper. So you can find things based on the indexing we do. And very clearly on the left side of the screen, you see the citation navigation. And that is really unique. It looks and sounds very simple, but there are 50 or more types of cited references, and there is a hierarchy that we use in processing those references. Now today we do comprehensive indexing of cited references. So the full references is indexed so that you can see it in the Web of Science, so that it looks like a journal page actually, but it is completely indexed and available to you for searching as well. So this is, we're unifying the data as much as we can as well, because organizations change over time. There will be affiliates, they will be merged, et cetera, et cetera. So on the platform, we've unified over 12,000 organizations, and we're also bringing together the funding organizations. We've indexed and unified the top 1,200 or so funding organizations, and we continue to do that based on the number of papers they have funded and looking at the variance to bring them together. Because funders will be listed in the journal in many, many different formats. So we're trying to bring this together and unify that data so that it is more usable, and that is critical. Now onto the Emerging Sources Citation Index very quickly. The Emerging Sources Citation Index came out in 2015. It allowed us to expand our coverage exponentially. We added, altogether, over 7,680 journals were added. But the data is available now. We have an archive going back to 2005, excuse me, and a 10-year archive covering 2005 to 2014, and then what we call the front file, or the current data when it came out from 2015 forward. So it's about 7,680 journals, and we have one collection that covers the sciences, social sciences, and arts and humanities, and that is very different. But what is the same about it, or similar, is that every journal is selected after careful, selection criteria being applied. And again, I won't go into detail about that because it will be talked about later. But it also is indexed in the same way, comprehensive indexing. So you can search across that data the same way you can in the Science Citation Index Expanded. So all told, we have about 3 million records, so it's a little over 2.8 million records or so, 2.9 million records. 68 million cited references were added, and 2,745 of those journals are total open access journals. So around 40% of the data is openly available to everyone. And we've implemented then on the platform a new service that allows us to identify hybrid open access and green open access, which I'm going to talk about in a moment. But the Emerging Sources Citation Index allowed us to expand our reach. We studied our data very carefully to determine, what is being cited. Science is very collaborative these days. The average number of papers, authors on a paper is 2.8 in our data, if we look at it very carefully. And in some disciplines, it's much, much higher. And those affiliations from those authors cover a wide number of countries. So collaboration, universities have sister universities. Our data told us that we needed to expand because as research is expanding in many countries of the world, it becomes important for us to reflect the changes in science, because that's what we're supposed to do. We are reflecting what's happening in the data, in science, social sciences, and arts and humanities. So it allowed us to build a better understanding of those changes and to accurately reflect the regional, global expansion of science, social sciences, and arts and humanities as well. And that is very important for us. So you see that, today, 7,680 plus journals, 47% of that data is from Europe, the journals. 39% of the data is openly available, the DOAJ content. And then you have around 3 million records from 2005 to 2019. But then if we look at Poland, among three other countries, you see we have 187 journals that have been selected and are indexed or will be indexed from Poland that cover about over 50,000 papers. And you see three other countries represented. This is very global data, the Emerging Sources Citation Index. So it allowed us to expand regionally to give a global face of what's happening in science. And that's very important. And you see, how is this represented on the platform, though? You see the Emerging Sources Citation Index, although much smaller than the big three indexes, but it's contributing greatly to the expansion of our reach across science. So in the humanities in particular, you see an example of how this is reflecting an increase in cited references. So this journal, Human Affairs, a multidisciplinary journal in the humanities, you see from its selection in 2015 when ESCI was created, the Emerging Sources Citation Index, it started receiving more citations almost immediately because the Web of Science is used by, core collection is used by over 9,500 individual sites in 120 countries. So 20 million eyes can be on this data on any given day. So that clearly reflects what is being seen in the literature, these new journals, this regional expansion, and can be cited. And you see that in the data as well. So now I want to move on quickly to the ISI and the reestablishment of ISI within the Web of Science group. This is very critical and something that I just was thrilled about, to tell you the truth, because I lived through ISI. In the 1970s and 80s, Dr. Garfield wrote essays in a weekly publication called Current Contents. And he had current comments in Current Contents, in the print edition of the Current Contents, which was a weekly publication in 7 different editions. And he wrote about research and discovery and its importance for the organization. Not only for us to look at science and social sciences and even humanities, and to look at how things are changing within the data for new applications of that data, but also for how this strategic research would be reflected in our products. The JCR came out as a result of this research and development at ISI. Number of new things that are on the platform and have been the hallmark of ISI for many, many years are a result of this research that was done back in the 70s and 80s. So ISI very clearly is sort of our in-house university. And it is made up of experts that have, they're bibliometricians. They're all PhD scientists that have written papers, that have worked in the industry for many, many years. And the team is led by Dr. Jonathan Adams. You may have heard of him. He's a bibliometrician well known. And there are a number of people working for him. And they disseminate knowledge or reports to us and then publicly as well. And I'm going to highlight one of those. But they do a lot of research. They look at our metrics and what should be reflected, what new metrics can be reflected in our data, what is important. And they're working also at important conferences. They will be represented at ISI, which is in Rome this year. This is an example, two examples. There's a third report that was just recently distributed, and these are freely available up on our platform. One is profiles, not metrics, and the other is Plan S footprint, because Plan S in Europe is a big deal. It's been written about a lot. There are over 100 signatories of the Plan S, and Plan S obviously is evolving as we present here today. It's changing every day, but ISI is focused on the development of existing and new bibliometric and analytical approaches, and they look at our data very clearly from a from an area that is very specialized. And they also, we're giving an award every year now to the memory of Dr. Garfield. And the award will be presented at this year's ISI conference. And I included that URL there so that anyone can take a look at that. And also, it's for early career researchers that are not more than 10 years within their research career and have novel ways of looking at our data. You will be given an award, a cash award, and then also the use of our data for your project as well. And this is the third year of this award, and it's very, very, we treasure the memory of Dr. Garfield and his legacy, and this is a way to honor him. So the Plan S footprint, though, its implications for scholarly publishing, was one of the reports that came out, and there are a lot of questions about it. It's been signed by, and it is something that's that many organizations have signed on for. But what's actually going to happen? As I said, it's evolving very quickly, and it changes all the time. So the individual members of the coalition will align their grant agreements and contracts with Plan S and monitor compliance and sanction of their money, of their grants, enforcing open access publication. So that is the thought behind it. Now, we looked at our data, ISI looked at our data, I should say, and they in that report, there is a lot of interesting data, and they looked at 2017 data that acknowledge one or more of the funding organizations that have signed on to Plan S. So you see them listed there in order of relevancy, number of papers, and it is a wide variety of publishing funding organizations. And then you can take a look at their open access. This shows the proportion of papers published in 2017 that acknowledge one or more funding organizations that have indicated support, and you see whether or not the data is fully open or not. And the gray on the right side of the screen, it's hard to see because it's a light gray, is subscription, it's non-OA. And then you see how they fare within different levels of OA, because we've integrated a way on our platform to look at the data based on based on a journal being fully open to everyone, hybrid, where an article is openly available, free to read, bronze OA, and then also the green published or green accepted OA as well. And so all of that is indicated there. And then how are these papers being cited as well? And average citation counts for the papers in 2017 funded by these organizations, and they're depicted on the screen in the ESI, Essential Science Indicators research categories, comparing those funded by Plan S agencies with the overall Web of Science content. And you see average citation count for 2017 on the bottom. And the red is Plan S, and the blue is the category total. So they're doing very well. They're cited on average much higher. And then you see how publishers fare as well. And the bottom says compliance, Plan S papers, and DOAJ listed journals. These are the fully gold open access journals. And then on the other matrix, you see Plan S as a percentage of total papers. And you see how each publisher is faring. These are the larger publishers, of course. So let's move on and talk about open access very quickly. Open access obviously is something that is written, researchers need to get to the paper, number one. And to get funding, you need to acknowledge that you're going to publish your paper, that the research coming out of your paper will be openly available for others to use. That is clear. 50% of the content in scholarly journals is now openly. It has been estimated. Now, this is not exact, but it has been estimated. At the bottom, you see where that's coming from. There are over 100 plus funder OA mandates, meaning that people are signing on, organizations are signing on, that they will not give money unless you have a plan for openly making your data and research available. There are over 11,000 now gold OA journals. We cover around 4,000 of those in the Web of Science in the platform. Web of Science Core Collection, I think it's around 3,300. There are 5,000 plus institutional repositories, and also 420,000 articles have been published in predatory OA journals since 2000. So there's a lot of information out there, but there's really only one database that has the publisher neutral, curated, open access that has been integrated on the platform, and that's the Web of Science. So what we did is we invested in something called Impact Story, which was a not-for-profit company, and we had them develop their algorithm so that it would link out to a legal version of an article, meaning an article that is available, but it is not violating copyright. Either it's a green accepted, green published, the publisher has indicated that it is freely available to be read, the bronze OA. So the different types of OA are then indicated in the Web of Science. And very quickly, you can read about this, but the full text from the publisher on the left side of the screen, and then free full text from repositories are also indicated. And the different types of OA can be searched and filtered. And you can do studies in the Web of Science platform on OA and look at things very, very quickly and easily using the tools that we have. Now, the unpaywall revolution, has been out there for a while. There's something called Unpaywall, and it was a plugin where anyone could use it and find full text. But it didn't discriminate where it was going. The investment we made linked us only to the legal copy of the paper. We didn't want to go to older versions of a paper that had changed, or versions of the paper that could be incorrect. It was either the published paper or a publisher-approved copy of a paper, freely available to read, or the publisher had given permission to the author to deposit the article in an institutional repository. So that increased the Web of Science full text to 12 million papers. And we gave this technology, after we developed it, back to the academic community and to other database providers, one of whom is a primary publisher. And you see on the screen, you know, that primary publisher is not linking to the green data at all because it affects their business. So we are very, you know, publisher neutral. We want legal, we're very careful about what we select, how we index the content, and then how we link to the content for you. Because we want to get you there, but we want to get you to the legal copy of the content. So this is an analysis of that. And you can see in Poland then, if you do a quick search across all of the different Web of Science editions, you see that we find around 657,000 papers, and I can filter that on OA, and you see how I can filter it here. Open access comprises 151,000 of those papers, or almost 20% or so, 22%, are fully open access enabled for everyone to get to. And then you can filter by the different types of open access at the top of the screen in the middle, and you see the different types. And then what I did very quickly is I filtered by the 151,000, so you see Poland, and looked at the different countries that are represented. So you're collaborating on those open access papers. And you can filter this and then do analyses on citing papers as well to show you how these papers are being cited in relationship to all papers being published in subscription content as well. So this is just a look at the emerging sources citation data, 50,000 papers, and you see the open access comprises 29,000, almost 30,000 of those papers. So it's well over 50%, around 60% of the papers. And then the different types of open access that are available. So this integration then, you know, you're getting the DOA gold, you know, because the journal is open access. But then the other open access versions contribute around 7,000 more papers that are published in Poland for every researcher to get to, which is very critical. Okay. I think you're going to get a copy of these as well. Okay. So, did I go the wrong way? So access to full text is very critical. We know that researchers are not static. They change affiliation. They travel. They have sabbaticals. They're working with researchers at other institutions. They're not at their home university. And yet they need to get to what they're legally able to use in full text. So we developed something called Copernio, which was a small company that we acquired, but we've integrated this service in the Web of Science platform, and this allows you with one click to get to your library. So Copernio, very carefully, is free. It's free for individuals. You can go out and just type in Copernio, go to it, and update your browser. It is available in Chrome and Firefox at this point, and you install it, and it takes a minute, and then it's available for searching, and it works with Google Scholar. It works with PubMed. About 20,000 sources can be searched with Copernio, so it's very, very much integrated into the research ecosystem. And it goes to the legal version of the it defaults to the publisher version of the paper if you have that in your subscriptions, because it's connected to your library. It knows who you are through your identification when you update your browser, and so that information is stored in the browser, and and then it also integrates with your library proxies and library authentication systems to retrieve the research articles that you have access through your institutional subscription. If it doesn't find an institutional subscription, then what it does, it goes out after an open access version. And if it doesn't find an open access version, it could find a preprint, and it delivers that as well. And it puts it in your locker at the bottom, you see your Copernio locker, because it's depositing that so you don't have to go after it again, number one. And you see the different versions that it can go after. So for researchers, clearly this makes things much more effective and efficient, because their library travels with them and it is there at point of need. For institutions and librarians, they get a read. The return on their investment of full text is exponentially grown. It's growing because researchers, no matter where they are, can get to their libraries. And then for publishers, societies, and editors, we're focused on delivering the legal official version. So your published works are then being linked to by everyone in the Web of Science. So we're going to take this further. Right now, it is integrated right now with EndNote. So it's available with EndNote. So that an EndNote user can download the bibliographic information, but also the PDF at the same time. And then coming soon, you'll be able to see in Copernio, to the right of the screen, the number of times cited. So even if you're not in the Web of Science, we'll be able to show you the times cited information for papers that are cited, that are covered in the Web of Science. You can move right to those citing papers, very clearly an advantage. So we're integrating our citation information outside of the platform as well, very clearly adding value for researchers. And it will, Copernio will also be integrated with Mendeley and Zotero as well, because we're very clearly neutral in the use of this tool, because it is available for everyone. You can go and I have it on my desktop. All you need to do is get the extension to the browser, and you're off and running. And a future enhancement we have is to build a dashboard for institutions. This could, so it gives an institution the number of papers the researchers are going to, the subscription papers versus OA versus preprints. So it will give you an indication in the library, you know, what your researchers are doing, using, and all of this information then gets posted to your counter reports as well, your usage reports. But also it will give you an indication of what full text you might decide to acquire in the future as well. And you get a listing by publisher as well. So let's move on to peer review very quickly. So we acquired a small company called Publons a couple of years ago. And Publons is unique in that it was providing peer review, transparency in peer review, and giving credit for peer review. Everyone knows that peer review is something that every academic researcher does in his career, his or her career. So you can go to Publons, and again, for individuals, it's free. You can go there, sign up, create a profile, and you're part of Publons. You know, journals use this service to manage their peer review as well. And there is a resource called Reviewer Connect that is then integrated with Publons so that you not only can browse the reviewers of Publons, but then you can also use the Web of Science to find additional potential reviewers. So very carefully. So we give you then, on your platform page though, on your profile page, you get your papers, your peer review, you get a sample citation metrics to view, and you see that up there. We have now over 540,000 researchers signed up, 3 million reviews have been done, and this includes reviews for journals that we don't cover as well as the ones we do cover. So again, we're very, very agnostic in that regard. And 25,000 journals are now using Publons for some type of review. They haven't all signed up to manage peer review exclusively on our platform, but the researchers doing reviews cover 25,000 titles. So there is also very clearly a peer review is very, very important, and they published Global State of Peer Review a year or so ago, and this continues to be a report that is very well known and well received. It gives you the state of the art in peer review and gives you regionally an accounting of where peer review and how it's used across the globe. So it's giving researchers credit for peer review because it's allowing you to post that information in your profile. It increases transparency because it's upfront and it's public. Therefore, there will be less fraud activity in peer review because it can happen. It also allows the person doing the peer review to tag journals that they like working with, and also for journals to tag reviewers that they like working with as well, so a trusted peer reviewer. And there's also an API to get the content out of Publons as well. For institutions, if you want to post the Publons data in your institutional repository or your research management system, that can be done. So we also have an academy. So peer review is something that, it's a skill. It's a real skill, a learned skill. And they have a Publons Academy where an individual can go in, and it's 10 modules. There are sessions, there are test peer reviews modules within it, practice reviews, and also one-on-one to help researchers gain confidence, to craft their writing skills as well for academic peer review, and to build their profile as an expert in peer review. And once you do this, you get a badge, and the badge then can be placed anywhere. And this is an example of a profile. Again, at the top you see the guy's name, and then you see his sample metrics here on the left, his impact over time and his publications. And then you see at the table at the top on the right gives you a listing of his reviews, and you can click to any of those, and they can be Web of Science or non-Web of Science cover journals. And then you get also his publications, because we're integrating, as of today, Researcher ID, over 1 million strong researchers in Researcher ID. Now their data has been moved over to the Publons profile platform, that environment, to give them the ability to have all of this on one platform, so that they can merge their peer review with publication activity. Here's just a sampling of peer review in Poland. You see we have 28,364 reviews. You see a listing of top reviewers that have been selected by publishers or for doing peer review. Verified reviews, 39,456. Reviews in the last 12 months, 17,000 reviews have been done by Polish academic researchers in the last 12 months. And verified editor records, 1,287. So they've been verified by the editors. And you see a listing. You can also go by look at institutions as well. So we're bringing the power of Publons into Web of Science as well to create a new author search, and also to show on the platform the ability then to take the Publons technology and to see a unified view of an author's output right in the Web of Science, which is very critical. You can navigate to a summary view of an author's publications, to export, to analyze, link to full text, and more. And also, you can submit feedback. You can designate, this is my paper, this paper is not mine, and someone will review that, and it will be changed because we're still using algorithmic methodologies to try to bring papers together identified as being from one author. But then you can change those. You can tell us, you can update us and say, this is incorrect, this should be changed, this should be added to this other author's work. And somebody will review that in our office before the changes are made. And the idea is to have this in place by October. So very quickly, analytics. I'm not going to talk long about analytics because Guillaume's going to cover it. But the Insights platform on the Web of Science platform, you have Insights. And Insights includes the journal citation reports, essential science indicators, but also something called benchmarking analytics, which has all of the Web of Science content from 1980 to the current month that we're in, So through March of 2019 at this point, we have loaded that data. I think that the latest month's data is going to be loaded in the next couple of weeks. But it allows you to do very, very detailed benchmarking to create tiles that depict trends in research. You can import data from the Web of Science and create your own custom data sets. You can do bibliometric analysis on productivity, impact, collaboration, journal ranking, open access, because it's also in the Web of Science, in Insights. And you can create system reports that are automatically updated as we load new data. So you get your reports updated with the new data automatically. And there's also an API that you can bring that data outside of Insights into your research management system. I want to talk just very briefly about my organization, which is the newest module, because we can't really show that as yet. It's coming very soon in the next few months. But it allows you to download your organizational structure and your publication data, upload that into the Insights platform. Now that can be done via an API, or we have a service that will help you do that, creating the data for you based on author email addresses for your institution, which you then verify. We will do the upload and create the data, and the outcome then is standardized reporting married with the Insights metrics data. So very, very carefully gives you departmental reports based on your organizational structure in Insights, and allows you to do the same type of exploration using metrics that we would have in the Insights benchmarking analytics platform. Any questions? I know I went over.
Thank you, Jeff. I think, yeah.
Więc teraz zrobimy krótką przerwę, a po przerwie porozmawiamy, wystąpi Nandita, wystąpi Guillaume. Będziemy rozmawiać o tym, co pewnie Państwa najbardziej interesuje, czyli czego tak naprawdę szukamy w Web of Science, czego oczekujemy i jak możemy Wam jeszcze pomóc. Zapraszamy na przerwę.
Suppressed last week at JC. I was in contact with the person
Tak, dokładnie. Będzie strona, wyślemy Państwu wszystkie z nagraniami.